Saudi to Konaka, Dajahao, hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Yeah. Changed location because I'm hoping to get better lighting from the window next to me here. Because I noticed that when I was filming in the other location, the video looked a little bit grainy because the lighting's just not that good and I don't have my usual lights from back home. It is what it is. So today's video, I am giving you a breakdown of Duke Language School and my thoughts on whether or not it is a good school to study Thai in. I've been in Thailand for 3 months now, 2 months at the school, which is why I waited until now to make the video, because I really wanted to do a good amount of time to be able to give a fair opinion of it. First section is what happens before you start. If you haven't seen my ED visa and the process for an ED visa, I will link that above. In that I kind of go through the steps of what I did to get my ED visa with Duke Language School. That is a heavy section of the pre-joining the school, so getting your ED visa, enrolling, assume you're doing ED route. If you're not, then just enrolling like normal. If you're an absolute beginner, then no worries, you can ignore this section. You will start off at the basics. So the courses are set in 3 sections. Each section has 3 levels, so 3 books. It's Journey, so you have Journey 1, 2, 3. The second is Explorer, so you have Explorer 1, 2 and 3. And then the third level, I've immediately forgotten. I think it's Connecting or Connector. I will double check and put that down below, but that's got 3 levels as well. So the journey is all about going from learning how to say Saudi Krab, and all the way up to talking about Rusuk, things like that. And it takes you basically to allow you to have a conversation. In the first 3 levels, you will not be writing Thai, it will be the Romanized version of Thai. As I said, if you're an absolute beginner, no worries, you'll be on Journey 1. If you are like me, someone who has been learning Thai for a while, maybe you've lived in Thailand for a while, you will have to do a placement test. So in the placement test, they will ask you a series of questions and they will see how you answer, what words you know, what words you don't know. I was someone who was very like borderline, like I knew some things that were higher, I didn't know some things that were lower, very strange. Of course, that's me. I always have to be the exception to a rule. But I started at Journey 3, so that's the final level of the first section. You then will have to buy a book. This is my Journey 3 book. It is 500 baht. Each book for each level is 500 baht, and you need to purchase that before the class starts. So some people will buy it on the morning of. I like to buy about a week before or a few days before, just so I had it. Again, my logic was that I would do some pre-studying. I in fact did no pre-studying. I had this book for a whole month before I started. All I did was open it, think, wow, closed it, never looked at it again until class started. If you can get it ahead of time, definitely do try and do some pre-studying. The second part is lesson structure. What is the lessons like? What can you expect? So classes are kept quite small. My first class, there was only 6 of us, and my second class, there were 12 of us. So the first class, as I said, was Journey 3, so it was mainly about learning to speak, learning vocabulary and things like that. So it's very small classes because it allows a lot more speaking time. The second class was a bit bigger because the focus on Explorer is writing. So Explorer 1 and 2, you're focusing on learning the Thai alphabet, learning how it goes together, learning how consonants and vowels work. The focus is more on writing. You do still get a lot of speaking time, but the focus is slightly different. The lessons are 3 hours, Monday to Friday. You can do AM, PM. You can also do online or in person, AM, PM. I did in person AM, so start at 9, finish at 12. And each hour you get a 10-minute break. So you can go to the toilet, get a drink, whatever you want to do. I'll honestly be sat there thinking, Paksip Nati, Paksip Nati. That's what I'll be waiting for sometimes, because doing a lot of Thai is intense. Learning any language for that concentrated amount of time is intense. As I mentioned, I'll use my Journey. I'll pick that up in a minute. I'll be using my Journey 3 book as an example. Each book, well this book anyway, has 10 lessons. And you can see it at the beginning, so it's 10 lessons. And at the end of each lesson is a test. and the test is 10 questions, and it just basically tests your knowledge of that lesson. You need to pass your tests to progress to the next level. And when I say next level, I mean to be able to go up a book. There are 3 factors in which you'll be tested on to determine whether or not you can progress. The first is your average of all 10 tests that you've done in relation to the book. The second is your attendance score, and the third is your homework, whether or not you've been doing your homework. I do really like the fact that they test each lesson as well, because it really helped me to make sure I was staying on top of what I was doing. And there were some tests that we should not talk about. I did very badly. All lessons are in Thai, so you just get used to speaking Thai, hearing Thai, thinking Thai, seeing Thai, everything Thai. You get used to it because that's all you're hearing. They do use some English, but that's only very, very, very rarely if someone doesn't understand a concept, or if someone is like, does that mean da 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 in English? And they're like, yes. And you're like, ah, okay. But other than that, Thai. Thai, 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 Thai. That's all you're gonna hear, and I really like that because I think it's a good way to immerse yourself in the language. Now let me tell you, Explorer. So as I said, Explorer is all about reading, learning the alphabet, learning all of that. I did Explorer 2, so you may be asking, Victoria, but you said that there's Explorer 1, 2 and 3, Journey 1, 2 and 3, and the third level, which I forgot the name of, 1, 2 and 3. So how did you go Journey 3 and then Explorer 2? But before I came, I could already read and write Thai, so I didn't want to do Explorer 1 because that was just learning the alphabet. So I skipped a level to Explorer 2, which was all about clusters and when to use things like serara and things like that. And this was like the more intense things like silent markers and things like that that you're learning in this level. There are less tests, which are good. And one thing I do like as well is that they teach you about fonts. So as an example, here was a story that uses different Thai fonts, which is really good because, let me tell you something, one thing I've learned since living in Thailand is the Thai I learnt to read is not the Thai I see in the streets. Okay, they use different fonts here, and I'm like, hang on, what is that? This font here, this line, the second line down, this font is very popular here, very popular, but it's, unless you know what you're looking for, it can be quite confusing, and it looks so similar to English. But my issue that I had, just as an FYI, is because I'd learned how to read and write so long ago, I forgot the names. I forgot the names of the letters. So the teacher would be like, what's this one? And I'd be like, I mean, I can tell you how to write it and read it, I just don't know the name. So that was one thing I had to brush up on. But yeah, so Explorer 2, all about reading and writing. And also you'll do writing exams. So for example, here's one that I did, and you can see my mistakes. I'm not afraid to show mistakes, that's how you improve. So yeah, this is an example of like a writing test I had to do. This I can show you because it's not the official test. This is just like a nice little pop quiz style. Now, the staff at Duke School, I wanted to throw in a bit about them as well, because you know, if you're going to be going, you're going to be interacting with staff. I'll say in my experience, I've had 2 different teachers. Both of them were lovely. I could not praise them high enough. I never felt like I couldn't ask a question. I never felt like it was a stupid question. They didn't feel like they were rushing me. I felt like they genuinely wanted to know what I was saying and to help, which I really, really like. They have a good sense of humor, which for me was important. Admin staff, huge shout out to them as well. In my ED visa, I mentioned them. They were or have been and are so, so helpful. Again, I have some stupid questions sometimes, and I'm like, me again. But they always help me and they don't make me feel like a burden, even if maybe deep down they're like, why are you back again asking questions? They never make me feel that way. So helpful. If you have any questions, do not be afraid to ask them. Just as an FYI, if you are on an ED visa at this school, or I assume any other school as well, you will have to do a ministry test. I cannot tell you what the ministry test is like because I have not done it. However, today, as I'm filming this, I will be doing my very first ministry test. Wish me luck, guys. Overall, would I recommend Duke School? Yes, hands down, 100% I would. I really like the resources, the books, I think they're so good, and they are written by the school for the school, which I think is quite unique. They're not using just some sort of third-party stuff. They're using their own resources, and it's targeted to teach you useful things you're actually going to be using, and in a way that helps you remember. So for example, Journey 1, 2 and 3 is story based, so you're learning via a story that weaves through the books. So now I would highly recommend Duke Language School. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I've still got some more lessons to go. I'm going to be doing at least 3 more courses with the school, so who knows, I'll be going up a level soon. And that's one thing I also wanted to point out. If you take time off, so if you take 1, 2 months off, 3 months off, you will have to do a placement test when you come back, just to make sure that you've not forgotten anything and that you can progress onto the next level. If you have any questions or comments in relation to my experiences, Duke Language, drop them down below. I'll be happy to answer them. If you have any ideas of videos you'd love to see, then drop those down below as well. So that brings me to the end. Please do smash the like, the share and the subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family. But most importantly, as always, have a very, very blessed day. And until next time, Saudi tuk konaka, zaijian, goodbye everyone.